Let's talk about giving feedback. Ugh, right. It's one of those things we all have to do, but let's be honest, almost nobody enjoys it. You know that feeling, that knot in your stomach right before you have to tell someone they need to improve? Yeah, it's universal. But what if we could totally reframe that dread? What if feedback wasn't a confrontation, but a conversation that was actually about helping people grow? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into exactly how to make that happen.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to get real about why giving feedback is so darn hard. Then, I'm going to introduce you to a really powerful mindset that will completely change your approach. From there, we'll get super practical with a simple framework for the conversation itself. We'll even test it out on some tough scenarios. And by the end, trust me, you'll have a new feedback superpower. Let's get into it. All right, first things first, we have to just acknowledge the truth of the situation. Giving and getting feedback can be incredibly stressful. And not just for the person on the receiving end, but for the person giving it too. I mean, really think about it. Have you ever put off a tough conversation for days, maybe even weeks, just because you couldn't face what might happen? If you're nodding along, you are definitely not alone. That fear of how the other person's going to react is one of the biggest hurdles we all face. This quote from a new supervisor on Reddit it nails that core fear perfectly. They said, they can also get defensive and tend to find someone else to blame. I don't want to come off like I'm attacking them. That just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The second someone feels attacked, the walls go up, the conversation is basically over, and any chance for a good outcome just goes right out the window. And then there's this classic problem. You probably know this one, the brilliant jerk. This is the person who just crushes their individual goals. Their numbers are fantastic, but they leave a trail of bad team morale in their wake. Their metrics look amazing, but the human cost is super high. So how do you give feedback when the what they do is great, but the how they do it is, well, toxic? It's a really tough spot to be in. So, with those big challenges on the table, it is crystal clear we need a new way of thinking about this. And that brings us to a really powerful mindset called radical candor. It is all about finding that sweet spot, that perfect balance where you can challenge someone directly while still showing them that you care personally. Now, the really crucial thing to get here, and this comes from its creator, Kim Scott, is that radical candor is not a license to be brutally honest. In fact, it's the total opposite. It's about caring enough about someone to tell them the truth directly and kindly. Think of it less as criticism and more as helpful guidance. So check out this chart. It breaks it all down. Imagine you've got two lines. One is care personally, and the other is challenge directly. Now look at the bottom right. When you challenge somebody but you don't show you care, that's just obnoxious aggression. You're just being a jerk. Bottom left, when you don't care and you don't challenge, that's manipulative insincerity. But the trap most of us fall into is that top left one, ruinous empathy. That's where we care so much we're afraid to say what needs to be said. Our goal, the place we want to be, is that top right quadrant, radical candor, where you're doing both. You care and you challenge. Let's really zoom in on that common mistake, ruinous empathy. This is where your fear of hurting someone's feelings makes you sugarcoat the feedback so much that it becomes totally useless. You avoid the tough conversation and they never get the chance to grow. Radical candor flips that whole idea on its head. It says, because you care, you must be clear. Your praise becomes more specific, and your criticism, while it's still direct, is always delivered with kindness. Okay, so the mindset makes sense, right? But how do we actually put it into practice? Like, what do you literally say? Let's get super practical and walk through a simple, repeatable framework you can use in pretty much any feedback conversation. Here it is, your 4-step recipe. First, you state the specific situation. Something like, hey, in the team meeting this morning. Second, describe the observable behavior and stick only to the facts. When I was presenting the quarterly numbers, you interrupted me a couple of times. Third, explain the impact it had. And when that happened, I kind of lost my train of thought and felt a little flustered. And finally, make a collaborative request. In the future, would you mind letting me finish my point before jumping in? I'd love to hear your thoughts once I'm done. See how that works? And to make it even easier, here's a little fill-in-the-blank script. You can literally just plug your words in here. When you do the behavior, it makes me feel the impact because I need whatever it is you need. How might we handle this differently next time? This simple structure just takes all the guesswork out of it and keeps the conversation focused on working together, not on pointing fingers. All right, now it's time to put this framework to the test. Remember those really tough scenarios we talked about at the beginning? Let's go back to them and see how using this tool can completely change the entire dynamic of the conversation. Just look at this transformation. It's night and day. The poor version on the left, "You never get the data to me on time, you make me so angry," is vague, it's accusatory, and it's guaranteed to put someone on the defensive. Now look at the better version, using our framework. "When the report is turned in after noon on Monday, I feel frustrated because personnel complains. Could you get it to me by noon?" See the difference? It's specific, it's focused on the impact, and it opens the door to a solution. It is a total game changer. So what about our brilliant jerk? Well, the solution here is to redefine what performance actually means. It's not just about the what, the raw numbers and the metrics. It is just as much about the how, the teamwork, the collaboration, the positive impact you have on others. When you make the how an official part of the job, the feedback becomes way simpler. A star performer who damages the team is, by definition, not actually a high performer. So you see, when you combine the right mindset with a practical, step-by-step framework, feedback stops being this thing that we all dread. It actually becomes a tool for connection and growth. It becomes a force for good.
If you take just one single thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this simple phrase: clear is kind. That also means that unclear is unkind. Think about it. That sugar-coated feedback we give to avoid hurting someone's feelings, it ultimately just leaves them confused and stuck. Being clear, even when it feels a little uncomfortable in the moment, is truly the kindest and most helpful thing you can do for someone's growth.
So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Think about one feedback conversation you've been putting off. How can you use that situation, behavior, impact request framework to have that conversation this week? Remember, the best way to get good at this isn't just to learn it, it's to actually use it. So go on, go make your feedback a force for good.